Dmytro Elovsky is with us, political commentator, host of the Kordakovsky Live channel. Hello, glad to have you on Freedom.
Hello, thank you very much. Me too.
Dmitry, it was very predictable when long before Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, in one of the episodes of the evening comedy club, Garik Harlamov played the role of the head of the Siberian region, where he said, remember, right? Everything's fine. Everything's under control. A million pieces of equipment are putting out fires. As said, no smoke, no soot, everything's good. And in the background, Siberia's burning. Doesn't this seem to you like a real prediction of what's happening now in the Russian Federation against the backdrop of huge losses, the fuel crisis, prices that are just skyrocketing? But at least we hit Kyiv with ballistic missiles. Victory.
Well, overall, it's similar, yes. There's also that "this is fine" meme where a dog is sitting in an apartment, everything's blazing around it, everything's on fire, but this is fine. That's what's probably happening overall across the whole country right now. Moreover, things are already happening that don't even lend themselves to just some kind of usual human analysis, right? For example, just a few hours ago, all across the city of Moscow, people suddenly heard the incredibly loud and startling sound of an explosion. Houses were visibly shaking in some places, while in others, the impact was felt quite differently. Reports came in from the southwest and the northeast, and even from the Moscow region, located well outside of the MKAD ring road. What was that? No one understands anything. No one can explain anything. There's no official reaction. The mayor's office is silent. The military is silent. Someone somewhere weakly said that apparently it was a fighter jet going, supersonic. But excuse me, what is that? Several hundred fighter jets all over Moscow? Well, in short, it's completely unclear what's going on. And this fabric, right? It's starting to sort of tear, and it's like the state has less and less control over everything happening in Russia, starting from the state of, well, the fuel and energy complex to logistics to purchases, goods, online trade. I mean, this strong hand that Putinism always boasted about, this rigid vertical, right? Which was also, like, always such a backbone of the regime. And according to the creator of this regime, favorably distinguished it from all Western liberal democracies. Well, it's been shaken. It no longer stands so firmly. And you can't string these elements of daily public life onto it, completely ordinary ones, right? And that's actually the scariest part, I think. The bad news is that there won't be an immediate effect from this, as I see it. But the good news is that this is a long game, and it's very unnerving and destabilizing. And sooner or later, I think that precisely because of this attack on normalcy, on everyday life, right, the regime will face major problems.
On the other hand, what do you think? What could all this turn into? Because, well, no matter how you look at it, it's the 21st century. No matter what. Social media, no matter how much the Russian authorities try to ban Instagrams, YouTubes, Googles, and so on, people still find ways to read reliable information. What could all this turn into in the end? What do you think? Because, as far as I understand correctly, these Stalinist methods have long been irrelevant.
Well, they are relevant, but with an adjustment for the modern development of internet technologies, right? Because if back under Stalin you had to imprison half the country and preferably shoot the other half, now, it seems to me, social media and television are responsible for the scale here. So the methods are basically all the same. But the only thing is, you don't need to scale up like that, right? As they say in the business world. That is, the repressions can be a smaller scale, but they spread so widely and are talked about so much, and they are so cruel, right? That overall, I think they serve their purpose. I think we need to talk here in general about the possibility of restricting the rights and freedoms of individuals and citizens in the post industrial era. Because, of course, people have long since installed everything: VPNs, Tor browsers, and so on and so forth. And they're learning how to bypass blocks and find access to free, truthful information, to your media outlet, to the channels where I work, and so on and so forth. But I suppose you could still just shut down the internet completely, make it so that there simply isn't any in the country at all, as we saw happen in Iran, right? Not so long ago. Well, it seems to me that Putinism in general takes certain practices specifically from this Islamic Republic, largely modeling itself after it. I think we need to prepare for this. This could easily become an everyday reality once they get tired of selectively jamming and shutting down specific services, VPNs, right? Overall, they could try to just flip the switch. I think there won't be any problems with that. Yeah, the bank will go down, banks will go down, apps like Wildberries. Well, whatever, that's the price. We understand that the Russian special services, the FSB, the FSO, have more and more influence now. And these guys, they aren't used to standing on ceremony. They aren't used to playing any political games. So if they have a sledgehammer and a switch, they will definitely use it.
Dmitry, and here's another interesting point. The fact that Putin is trying to hide the real situation as much as possible is already obvious. But they being Putin's power vertical, they're also trying to present victories that don't exist at the front on the line of contact. Right now, absolutely everyone is shouting from the rooftops that there will be a mobilization inside Russia. Information is already emerging about the issuance of summonses. Primarily, it's going to debtors, mortgage holders, those behind on child support, and so on. But this is clearly a sign of colossal losses and a lack of the human resources needed to seize the territory that Putin wants to seize. Could it be that this won't affect the public mood, so to speak, inside Russia?
Well, the public mood is, first of all, escapism, internal migration, and sometimes external migration. Right. So I think it's unlikely that anything will come of this in terms of protests, right? But I think the processes currently underway are quite painful. Let's also talk about the elections that are coming up now in Russia. Suddenly, the Yabloko party was registered, move that's not entirely clear to me. There might be questions about him, but nevertheless, it's the only party now advocating for peace, for ending the war, which has, well, a clear anti war agenda. Right. How far will they be able to go? How much will they gather? How much will they be allowed to gather? Right? That's also a question. But at the same time, the very fact of their existence is, well, I think quite important. And if it's possible to somehow organize the anti war Russians who don't support the regime so that they first go to the polls and second, don't waste their votes on like some new people or, God forbid, the communists, right? Who also sometimes, admittedly, allow themselves some criticism of the regime, but nevertheless. So maybe something could come of this. Well, at the same time, I think we probably can't really talk much about protests against mobilization either. Although, of course, people will go to the squares, go to the streets, but I think it will be, well, say hundreds or at best a few thousand, but the most like desperate, the bravest, and the most dissatisfied. And those, probably those whose, well, relatives will be defenseless against this mobilization machine that will be packing them in, rounding them up and so on. The fact that there will be a mobilization is, of course, a fact, right? And I think no one has any doubts about that anymore. The only question is what form it'll take, right? But they'll probably try not to stage a version 2.0 of that September 2022. Well, to try to somehow get by more quietly, more strictly, less officially, and it's not for nothing that they've been working on all these digital mechanisms for surveillance, restrictions, loss of rights, travel bans, and so on and so forth. I think that all of this will be working very strongly and very actively as early as this fall.
Dmitry, we have just a few minutes left until the end of the interview. I'm also interested in your opinion. And how do you see the Kremlin's overall information strategy right now? After all, they're always trying to ramp up the propaganda. We see, by the way, that the trust level in Russian propagandists, the main ones like Skabeeva and company, is falling rapidly, which suggests and confirms that they are increasing the number of their broadcasts. The number of dissatisfied so called Z War correspondents is growing, who, let's be honest, despite being brainwashed, still continue to, so to speak, occasionally criticize the authorities. Is there any strategic information policy in the Russian Federation? How can it be controlled even more now? It seems like it couldn't get any tighter.
Well, I think strategically there isn't one. It seems to me everything is decided tactically at the level of
Situational.
planning horizon, maybe? Yes, yes, exactly. Maybe a week, maybe two. Overall, this approach seems to justify itself in today's world, which is quite prone to change and rather volatile. But at the same time, it leads to some, well, completely idiotic examples. Like, for example, I don't know, maybe someone like Gromov, who's responsible for the regime's information support in the presidential administration, is on vacation, or someone else. Well, remember all those, recent assassination attempts on General Chaika in Moscow at Kudrinskaya Square, right? It's like this topic doesn't even exist. I mean, the official media completely, well, sort of missed it, meaning no comments at all. They should be seizing the narrative, saying they're saboteurs, punishing someone, putting someone in jail, making a show of, arresting some poor immigrants from Central Asia, for example, who are behind this explosion, are doing something. But here we see it's like they've completely let go of the reins, and this mayor is just dragging along however she can and however she pleases. Just, well, total silence. As for trust, I was looking at the ratings of Russian TV channels recently. News programs are still in the top spots there. Surprisingly, perhaps, despite it being summer and on. And almost everywhere, it's the Russia channel. In the top 10, they occupy almost all the spots. And Popov and Skabieva are also there in that top 10 rating. But I think that many are indeed migrating now to Telegram and to the internet and to some other platforms. But at the same time, I would say that the main trend, probably, yeah, of propaganda and control over it is some kind of negligence. I don't know, maybe vacations, maybe they're afraid, or maybe there's some kind of shift change. It's hard to say here, but we're definitely seeing that they're controlling less and are less able to produce their own news hooks and their own frames.
Dmitry, thank you very much. Always happy to have you. On Freedom, Dmytro Elovsky, political commentator, host of the Khodorkovsky Live channel, was with us live.